Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into 3 very scary true desert horror stories that will leave you questioning what truly lurks in the most silent and barren corners of the earth. Deserts are often seen as empty wastelands, endless stretches of sand and scorching heat. But for some unfortunate souls, these places hold secrets that defy explanation. These aren't legends or urban myths. These are real encounters, told by people who walked away forever changed, haunted by something they can never unsee or understand. So sit back, turn off the lights, and prepare yourself for these chilling tales of terror born beneath the unforgiving desert sun. The first story comes from a man who was traveling through the Sonoran Desert. He had been driving alone at night, taking a lesser-known desert highway to avoid heavy traffic. The road ahead stretched endlessly, swallowed by darkness. He recalled that the air felt strangely heavy, the temperature unnaturally cold despite the summer heat. He had driven for hours without seeing another soul when suddenly he spotted a dim, flickering light in the distance. At first he assumed it was another car or maybe a stranded traveler. As he approached closer, he realized it wasn't moving, but hovering, like a lantern suspended in midair. Confused but curious, he pulled over to the side of the road and stepped out. The silence was overwhelming. No wind, no insects, nothing, just stillness. The light pulsed almost as if it was breathing. Against his better judgment, he took a few steps forward. That's when he noticed something unsettling. There were footprints in the sand leading towards the light. Human footprints, but they abruptly stopped halfway as though the person vanished mid-stride. A chill ran down his spine. He backed away slowly, but before he could reach his car, he heard something. Not footsteps, not voices, just a faint whisper carried on a wind that wasn't there. It sounded like someone calling his name. He panicked, scrambling back into his vehicle and slamming the doors shut. His heart hammered in his chest as he started the engine, but before he could drive off, the light suddenly shot toward him, faster than anything natural. It passed directly in front of his windshield and disappeared into the night sky. In that brief moment, he saw it clearly. It wasn't a lantern or any man-made object. It was a glowing, shifting mass, like a swirling orb of energy. He drove away at full speed, refusing to look back. To this day, he refuses to travel through deserts at night. He never told anyone exactly what he saw, because he knew no one would believe him. But he insists that something lives in those desolate sands, something that watches and waits. The second story comes from a woman who worked as a long-haul truck driver crossing the Mojave Desert during her night routes. She had been driving for nearly 12 hours when exhaustion began to take over. She spotted a small rest stop, one of those old, nearly abandoned stops with a single gas pump and a flickering sign. There were no other vehicles, no lights inside the station, just an eerie stillness. She stepped out to stretch her legs when she noticed something bizarre. In the distance, just beyond the edges of the light, stood a figure. It was far, but she could tell it was tall, too tall. It wasn't moving. Just standing there facing her. She thought maybe someone needed help. She called out, but no response. She waved, nothing. She felt uneasy, but she couldn't just ignore it. As she took a step forward, the figure suddenly vanished. Not walked away, not turned, just gone. She froze. Then, from behind her truck, she heard heavy footsteps, slow, deliberate. She spun around, but no one was there. The air felt colder now, unnaturally cold. She climbed back into her truck and locked the doors. As she sat there, trying to calm herself, she caught something in her side mirror. The figure was back, but now it was closer, too close. She couldn't make out a face, only the outline of a body, stretched and distorted, like a shadow that didn't belong to anything. She tried to start the truck, but the engine stalled. Her hands trembled as she turned the key again. That's when she heard it, a knock, 3 slow, heavy knocks on her driver's side door. She didn't look, she couldn't, she only prayed. Finally, the engine roared to life and she sped away, wheels kicking up sand. In her mirror, the figure stood motionless once again in the distance, as if it had never moved at all. She never returned to that route again. The third story comes from 2 friends who decided to go camping in the Sahara. They were experienced travelers in search of true solitude. On their second night, they set up camp far from any known paths. The desert night was calm, the stars huge above them. They sat by a small fire, sharing stories. That's when they heard it, singing, faint, distant, but unmistakable, a woman's voice. The melody was eerie, almost hypnotic. They looked at each other, confused. There was no one for miles, no settlements, no caravans. Just endless dunes. They stood and listened. The singing grew louder, carried by a wind that hadn't existed moments before. It was beautiful yet deeply unsettling, like a lullaby meant to lure rather than soothe. Against reason, one of them called out. The singing stopped. Silence fell, heavy as the darkness. They backed toward the fire. Then, from behind one of the dunes, a figure appeared, a woman. She wore white, her hair long and dark, moving as if underwater. She walked slowly, but her feet left no prints in the sand. One of the men whispered that she might be lost, but the other knew something was wrong. Her face was pale, too pale, her eyes large and black, reflecting no light. She stopped a few meters away, watching them. No blink, no breath. The air grew unbearably cold. The fire began to flicker violently. Then she smiled, but it wasn't a human smile, too wide, too long. Without a word, she turned and glided back into the darkness, her body never shifting or swaying. The singing resumed, distant once more. Neither man slept that night. They waited until dawn and immediately packed their things. As they left, one of them noticed something chilling. Their footprints were still there, hers were not. There are places in this world untouched by time, where silence is not the absence of life, but the presence of something hidden. Deserts may seem empty, but they are not vacant. In the stillness of night, when the wind stops and the stars bear witness, something awakens. These travelers discovered that some mysteries are not meant to be solved. They are meant to be survived. Real fear does not scream. It whispers, it watches, it waits. And sometimes, if you're very unlucky, it finds you in the empty heart of the desert, where no one will hear you cry. These stories are reminders that not all who wander are lost, some are followed, and those who are followed into the desert rarely return the same. So if you ever find yourself driving across an endless stretch of sand, or camping beneath a desert moon, remember this. If you see a light, if you hear a voice, if you feel eyes on you, do not look. Do not answer, because out there in the vast, silent dunes, something is always listening.